do? And how do you do, Lord Darlington? Now, I won't let you know my daughter. You are far too wicked.
Oh, don't say that, Duchess. As a wicked man, I'm a complete failure. Why, there are lots of people who say I've never really done anything wrong in the whole course of my life. Of course, they only say it behind my back.
Isn't he dreadful? Agatha, this is Lord Darlington. Mind you, don't believe a word he says. No tea, thank you, dear. We have just had tea at Lady Markby's. Such bad tea, too, it was quite undrinkable. I was not at all surprised. Her own son-in-law supplies it. Agatha is looking forward so much to your ball tonight, dear.
Oh, you mustn't think it is going to be a ball, Duchess. It is merely a dance in honor of my birthday. Oh, so small and early.
Oh, very small, very early, and very select, Duchess.
Oh, of course it's going to be select. But we know that, dear Margaret, about your house. It really is one of the few places in London where I can take Agatha, and where I feel perfectly secure about dear Berwick. I don't know what society is coming to. The most dreadful people seem to go everywhere. Well, they certainly come to my parties. The men get quite furious if one doesn't ask them. Really, someone should make a stand against it.
I will, Duchess. I will have no one in my house about whom there is a scandal.
Oh, don't say that, Lady Windermere. I should never be admitted.
Oh, men don't matter. With women, it is different. We are good. Well, some of us are, at least. But we are positively getting elbowed into a corner. Our husbands would really forget our existence if we didn't nag at them from time to time, just to remind them that we have a perfect legal right to do so.
Oh, it's a curious thing, Duchess, about the game of marriage. A game, by the way, that is going out of fashion. The wives hold all the honors and invariably lose the odd trick.
The odd trick? Is it the husband, Lord Darlington?
Oh, it would make a rather good name for the modern husband.
Oh, my dear Lord Darlington, how thoroughly depraved you are.
Lord Darlington is trivial.
Oh, don't say that, Lady Windermere.
Why do you talk so trivially of life, then?
I think life far too important a thing to ever talk seriously about it.
Whatever does he mean? Do, as a concession to my poor wits, Lord Darlington, just explain to me what you really mean.
I think I'd better not, Duchess. Nowadays, to be intelligible is to be found out. Goodbye. And now, Lady Windermere, goodbye. I may come tonight, mayn't I? Do let me come.
Certainly. But you are to say foolish, insincere things to people.
Ah, you are now beginning to reform me. It's a dangerous thing to reform one, Lady Windermere.
What a charming, wicked creature! I like him so much. I'm quite delighted that he's gone. How sweet you're looking. Where do you get your gowns? And now, I must tell you how sorry I am for you, dear. Agatha, darling.
Yes, Mama.
Will you go and look over the photograph album that I see there?
Yes, Mama.
Dear girl, so fond of photographs of Switzerland. Such a pure taste, I think. But I really am so sorry for you, dear.
Why, Duchess?
Oh, on account of that horrid woman, of course. She dresses so well, too, which makes it so much worse. Sets such a dreadful example. Augustus, you know my disreputable brother, such a trial to us all. But Augustus is completely infatuated about her. It is quite scandalous, for she is absolutely inadmissible into society. Many a woman has a past, but I am told that she has at least a dozen, and that they all fit.
Whom are we talking about, Duchess?
What about Mrs. Erlyn?
Mrs. Erlyn? I've never heard of her, Duchess. And what has she to do with me?
Oh, my poor child. Agatha, darling.
Yes, Mama.
Will you go out on the terrace and look at the sunset?
Yes, Mama.
Sweet girl. So devoted to sunsets. Shows such refinement of feeling, does it not? After all, there is nothing quite like nature, is there?
But what is it, Duchess? Why do you talk to me about this woman?
Don't you really know? I assure you, we are all so distressed about it. Only last night at dear Lady Jansen's, everyone was saying how extraordinary it was that of all the men in London, Windermere should behave in such a way.
My husband? What has he to do with a woman of that kind?
Ah, what indeed, dear? That is the point. He goes to see her continually and stays there for hours at a time. And while he is there, she is not home to anyone. Not that many ladies call on her, dear, but she has a great many disreputable men friends. My own brother, particularly, as I told you. And that is what makes it so dreadful about poor Windermere. We all thought of him as being such a model husband, but I'm afraid there's no doubt about it. My dear nieces, you know the Savile girls, don't you? Such nice domestic creatures. Plain, dreadfully plain, but so good. Oh, they're always at the window doing fancy work and making ugly things for the poor, which I think so useful of them in these dreadful socialistic days. And this terrible woman has taken a house right opposite them in Curzon Street. Such a respectable street, too. I don't know what we're coming to. And they tell me that Windermere goes there 4 and 5 times a week. They see him. And although they never talk scandal, well, of course, they remark on it to everyone. And the worst of it all is that I have been told that this woman has got a great deal of money out of someone. For it seems she came to London 6 months ago without anything at all to speak of. And now she has a charming house in Mayfair, drives her ponies in the park every afternoon, and all, since she has known poor dear Windermere.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Oh, but it is quite true, my dear. The whole of London knows it. That is why I felt it was better to come and talk to you, and advise you to take Windermere away at once to Homburg or to Aix, where he will have something to do to amuse him, and where you can watch over him all day long. I assure you, my dear, on several occasions after I was first married, I had to pretend to be very ill, and was forced to drink the most unpleasant mineral waters, merely to get Berwick out of town. He was so extremely susceptible. Although I am bound to say that he never gave away any large sums of money to anyone. He is far too high-principled for that.
Duchess, it's impossible. Windermere and I are about 2 years married, and our child is about 6 months old.
Ah, the dear pretty baby! How is the little darling? Is it a boy or a girl? I hope it's a girl. Oh, no, I remember. It is a boy. I am so sorry. Boys are so wicked. My boy is excessively immoral. You wouldn't believe at what times he comes home. And he's only left Oxford a few months. I really don't know what they teach them there.
Duchess, are all men bad?
Oh, all of them, my dear, all of them. Without any exception. And they never grow any better. Men become old, but they never become good.
Windermere and I married for love.
Ah, yes. We begin like that. It was only Berwick's brutal and incessant threats of suicide that made me accept him at all. And before the year was out, he was running after all kinds of petticoats. Every shape, every color, every material. In fact, before the honeymoon was over, I caught him winking at my maid, a most pretty, respectable girl. But I dismissed her at once without character. No, I passed her on to my sister. Poor dear Sir George is so short-sighted, I thought it wouldn't matter. But it did, though. It was most unfortunate. And now, my dear Margaret, I must go, as we are dining out. And mind you, don't take this little aberration of Windermere's too much to heart. Just take him abroad, and he will come back to you all right.
Come back to me.
Ah, yes, dear, these wicked women get our husbands away from us, but they always come back. Slightly damaged, of course. Oh, and don't make scenes. Men hate them.
Duchess, it is very kind of you to come and tell me all these things. But I can't believe that my husband is untrue to me.
Pretty child. I was like that once. Now I know that all men are monsters. The only thing to do is to feed the wretches well. A good cook does wonders, and that I know you have. My dear Margaret, you're not going to cry?
You needn't be afraid, Duchess. I never cry.
That is quite right, dear. Crying is the refuge of plain women, but the ruin of pretty ones. Agatha, darling!
Yes, Mamma.
Come and bid goodbye to Lady Windermere and thank her for your charming visit. Well, by the way, I must thank you for sending a card to Mr. Hopper. He's that rich young Australian people are taking such notice of just at present. His father made a great fortune selling some kind of food in circular tins. Most palatable, I believe. I fancy it is the thing the servants always refuse to eat. But the son is quite interesting. I think he's attracted by dear Agatha's clever talk. Of course, we should all be so sorry to lose her. But I think that a mother who doesn't part with a daughter every season has no real affection. We're coming tonight, dear, and remember goodbye once more. Come, Agatha! So strange Lord Windermere isn't here. And Mr. Hopper's very late too. You haven't kept those 5 dances for him, Agatha? Yes, Mama. Just let me see your card. I'm so glad Lady Windermere has revived cards. They're a mother's only safeguard. Oh, you dear simple little thing. No nice girl should ever waltz with such particularly younger sons. It looks so fast. The last 2 dances you might pass on the terrace with Mr. Hopper. Yes, Mama. The air is so pleasant there.
Mrs. Cooper, Lady Stutfield, Sir James Royston, Mr. Guy Buckley.
Good evening, Lady Stutfield. This will be the last ball of the season, I suppose.
I suppose so, Mr. Dumby. It's been a delightful season, hasn't it?
Yes, quite delightful. Good evening, Duchess. This will be the last ball of the season, I suppose.
I suppose so, Mr. Dumby. It has been a very dull season, hasn't it?
Yes, dreadfully dull, dreadfully dull.
Good evening, Mr. Dumby. I suppose this will be the last ball of the season.
This? Oh, I think not. There will probably be 2 more.
Lady Jedburgh and Miss Graham. Mr. Hopper.
How do you do, Lady Windermere? How do you do, Duchess?
Mr. Hopper, how nice of you to come so early. We all know how you are run after in London.
Capital place, London. They're not nearly so exclusive in London as they are in Sydney.
Oh, we know your value, Mr. Hopper. We wish there were more like you. It would make life so much easier. Do you know, Mr. Hopper, dear Agatha and I are so much interested in Australia. It must be so pretty with all the dear little kangaroos flying about. Agatha has found it on a map. What a curious shape it is, rather like a large packing case. But it is a very young country, isn't it?
Was it not made at the same time as all the others, Duchess?
Oh, how clever you are, Mr. Hopper. You have a cleverness quite of your own. Now, I mustn't keep you.
Well, I should like to dance with Lady Agatha, Duchess.
Oh, well, I hope she has a dance left. Do you have a dance left, Agatha?
Yes, Mama.
The next one?
Yes, Mama.
May I have the pleasure?
Mind you take great care of my little chatterbox, Mr. Hopper.
Margaret, I want to talk to you.
In a moment.
Lord Augustus Lawton.
Good evening, Lady Windermere.
Sir James, will you take me to the ballroom? Augustus has been dining with us tonight. I really have had quite enough of dear Augustus for the moment.
Lord Darlington.
I want to speak to you particularly, dear boy.
My dear Margaret, I've been having such a delightful chat with Mrs. Erlin. I am so sorry for what I said to you this afternoon about her. Of course, she must be all right if you invite her. A most attractive woman, and has such sensible views on life. Told me she entirely disapproved of people marrying more than once, so I feel quite safe about poor Augustus. I can't imagine why people speak against her. Oh, it's those horrid nieces of mine, the Savile girls. They're always talking scandal. Still, I should go to Homburg. Yeah, I really should. She is just a little too attractive. But where is Agatha? Ah, there she is. Mr. Hopper, I am very, very angry with you. You have taken Agatha out on the terrace and she's so delicate.
Awfully sorry, Duchess. We went out for a moment and we were chatting together.
About dear Australia, I suppose?
Yes.
Agatha, darling. Yes, Mama. Did Mr. Hopper definitely?
Yes, Mama.
And what answer did you give him, dear child?
Yes, Mama.
Oh, my dear one, you always say the right thing. Mr. Hopper! James! Agatha has told me everything. How cleverly you have both kept your secret.
You don't mind my taking Agatha off to Australia, then?
To Australia? Oh, don't mention that dreadful, vulgar place.
But she said she'd like to come with me.
Did you say that, Agatha?
Yes, Mama.
Agatha, you say the most silly things imaginable. I think on the whole that Grosvenor Square would be a more healthy place to live in. Of course, there are lots of vulgar people in Grosvenor Square, but at any rate, there are no dreadful kangaroos crawling about. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. James, you may take Agatha down. You'll come to lunch, of course, James, at 1:30 instead of 2. The Duke would like to say a few words to you, I'm sure.
I should like to speak to the Duke, Duchess. He has not said a single word to me yet.
Oh, I think you'll find he'll have a lot to say to you tomorrow. Now, dear Margaret, good night. I'm afraid it is the old, old story, dear. Love. Well, not love at first sight, but love at the end of the season, which is so much more satisfactory.
Good night, Duchess.